Hello, in this version we'll cover Pemulis Map Maker and we'll look at our geometry, see what we have here. This is just some sample data. We'll define parcels. We'll create a project so we can put those parcels in there. We'll label the parcels. We'll just use the Pemulis Parcel Labeler to generate some appropriate labels. We might use the find and replace application, and we'll generate lot labels, and we'll take a quick look at the reporting features. We're running Pemulis Map Maker version 12.25, and this is BriskCAD application. So let's get started. Let's just take a look here. So looks like we have boundary, parcels. Let's just take a look here. We'll turn off boundary and parcels. And then we have lot labels. Great. Turn those back on. And let's just start a new project. So new map maker file. And do put these in some location for your company, not into our sample data, but for this purposes, I will put them into the sample data. So let's call this sample data 01. And I'll just call it sample data. We can define parcels by three methods. One is one pick auto define. You just basically pick inside the figures and it'll attempt to define that as a parcel. The second method is this multiple method. We'll use that. And then there's from connected entities, and we'll use that one as well. Let's start off with the from connected entities, and we'll define the boundary using this option. So I can set my POB options. I'll say use the starting point that I pick, and I'll name the parcels, and let's prompt, and I'll have it stop to validate the geometry so I can look at it and see if it's correct. And let's go. Let's start over here. Okay, so I was able to define the parcel, 7 courses, gives you the area and linear feet and area calculation. Oh, so our drawing setup is, I think, metric, and we're only using, we're defining the project as English, so let's change that. Let's say, yes, accept the parcel definition. Let's call this boundary. If I use a number of -1, then it doesn't display a number. Otherwise, I could type in a number and it would display it as boundary, let's say 1. Okay, and let's just take a look at our project here, project preferences. And let's set up as metric. And those look fine. And again, let's define parcels. This time we'll define the ones that have labels already here, which makes it easy for us. So we'll use the multiple option. And it just wants to know what geometry do we want to use to analyze in order to define those parcels. So I'll start out by saying selecting none. I'll hold down the shift key, pick boundary and parcels. Those are the 2 layers. And I'll use those in the analysis. And then I can just pick any label. It'll find all the labels that are on that same layer and also of that same type. In this case, these are mtext labels. So once know if you want to define that one, yes. And next one, yes, yes, yes. I'll just keep hitting yes through this. If I turned off that confirmation setting, then it would just go ahead and define these. But I just would like to look at them first just to see. Y key and then the spacebar key for return. And I'll hit enter twice through those. And we can look at what we have defined here. Let's just take a look at one. I'll highlight this road, R1. zoom to it and then highlight it. So define that, that's great. Do a zoom extents. And let's take a look at the boundary here too. Great, that looks fine. So these look good. And once we have these, then we can label them. Let's take a look at our labeling styles first here. And here's a label style. That looks fine. We have tangents only in this drawing, so that's what we'll concern ourselves with. And looking at the style definitions, we can see we're displaying azimuth and azimuths to 2 decimal places. I could change this to 4, and it's even minutes. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll update that one. Let's do the same. I don't want one below, so I'm going to get rid of that one. Just uncheck it. I'll set this to 4. This will give us an opportunity later to show the find and replace in order to change label styles. And this one crossing over is fine. Oops, I don't think I hit the, oh, I did hit save. Great. Oh, no, I didn't. So if you make a change in the label style, pick the update, otherwise it doesn't save it. That's a precaution we give you. And I'll make this one 4 also. Distance, we don't need 2 of them. And we don't want any table numbers, so we're just going to, the smallest label we can place is one that has a distance, and 2 decimal places are fine. Let's use that. And just do a quick review. That looks good. 4, that's got 2. So let's change it to 4. And that doesn't, we're not going to use this, so it doesn't really matter. That's 4. Great. Great, looks good. Okay, and then if I OK out of this, it'll save that, it'll update that label style file with that information. And now what I can do is, let's put our labels on a layer. And I can do a right click over the project and pick label parcels. And you can see it'll label everything, put everything on the current layer. So that's great. We have labels here. And all right, looking at the labels, they look like they're pretty close to the line work, and perhaps the settings aren't exactly right. So let's just take a look at one label style here for one label. And let's make some changes here. Let's change this to 2.5, 2.5, and let's make this 2, and let's use a given label style that's already been created, and I'll give it a text height of 3. All right, that looks a little bit better. Now let's make all the labels use those same settings. So what I can do is do a select similar, pick one, do a select similar, and then we have an option that's called match properties. Now, probably the better thing would have been for me to define the label styles that had the proper settings, but since I didn't do that, and I just want to change them all, what I can do is pick the items that I've changed, the labeling offsets, the text style I changed, the text height I changed. I think that looks good. Okay, so we'll match, it says below, select the Pemulis label whose properties you want to match. I want to match this one. And you can see now all of them adjusted accordingly. So that's a quick way to get a number, and you can select as many or few as you want other label styles and have them, Pemulis labels, and have them match another label. Okay, now let's take a look at our labels, and we'll just pan around a little bit. And let's use our, okay, these are stacked, so we did them differently. That's fine, we can get to that later. Now let's use the Pemulis Parcel Labeler application. And what it does is it'll define the best label style for the given situation. And there are three categories: overall tangent labels, which would be, for example, along this boundary line, you have an overall label, would include a distance and an angle. And then you have the just the distance labels inside these lots along that same line. And that's the look we want to have. So what I'll do is here pick overall tangent labels. I'll pick the style setting. And let's take a look at what we have defined. And I have more in here than I need. So what I'm going to do is just have it match my current label definitions. And then for an overall label, I want to have the angle and distance. It can be on the same side, but it can't cross, and I don't want a distance, so I turn those off. So the styles I want to use are the ones that have angle and distance on the same side. Now for the partial labels, it's basically just the distance, so I'll turn off everything except for distance. Hit OK. That takes care of that. And let's take a look. We have no compound labels. That's great. And single labels, which would be like the lot lines. There's no other label that's associated with that label. And again, we'll look at the label styles, and I'll just have it do a refresh. And in the case of the overall, we want to have both the angle and the distance. And let's just say we use the style where it's one above, angle above the line, and the distance below. That looks good. Okay, and now we're just ready to tell it to annotate all. And you can see it very quickly did that. Let's just stand over here for a second. Now, the other thing it did is it set our label styles back to their original label styles, because it took the definitions from our label styles. So let's just close this out, go to our label styles. And this is what you want to do ahead of time, is just set it up so that it's using the proper values. So let me just set these. I'll pause the video and just make this happen quickly. Okay, so we can see the angle and distance now have the proper settings. The other tangent styles, great. Hit OK. Go back to the Parcel Labeler. And again, since we've made changes to our style definitions, we'll have those updated. And just put our settings back. These only have distance. Check our compound labels, nothing tangent labels. Do an update. Great. And then have it annotate all. And you can see the styles look better. And I'm looking at the tangent labels, and we don't want a distance. We want an angle above and distance below. So I'm going to make that change. And if I only want this one to update, then I just simply pick the update for that particular category. And you can see those labels all updated. Great. Okay, so that looks good. Let's do a zoom extents again. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's put the lot numbers in. For the lot numbers, let's just take a look here for a second. So what is this one? Let's list it. It is just standard text, and it's on layer lot numbers. So let's turn that off. And we'll zoom to one label, because what I want to do is see what the label style is going to look like as I set it up, because I don't know exactly what it might look like. So I'll go to Preferences, And parcel definitions, parcel label naming, label format, and let's look at the settings. So we've got basically three types of entities. You can use a Pemulis label, which has the benefit of the DV twist aware, the readability issue, updatability, a bunch of other things. Just standard M text or standard CAD D text. And let's use a Pemulis label to start with. We'll make it annotative. And what we're interested in displaying is the name of the lot and the square units. So we won't put an area calculation in. And so the way this works is we have, we can put the description above and the square unit calculation below the insertion point, which is basically the centroid of the parcel. And so we want to create a new label for each of those. So there's two different labels. We can put them on the current layer, that's fine, or we can just pick the layer. Let's put them on lot numbers and the area calculation on, it's this one. Nope, that's not that one. Let's see here. Lot numbers, Map Maker, and then let's say text area. That's fine. And then the text style to use, lot numbers, and let's say lot areas, and text height. Let's start with 3 and see what that looks like. And this one, let's say 1.5, and we want a suffix of meters, and basically we want meters squared. So let's say, let's work on that for just a second. We'll leave that for a moment. And then number of decimal places, so there's no decimal place for the name of the lot, and for the square units, let's start with 1, that's fine. Save these settings, hit OK, go to Parcel 1, do a right click, pick label name. Let's just see what it looks like. Oh, well, that's rather big, so let's make some adjustments, and you can see the lot areas rather small. Okay, so let's go back and make some changes. All right, I typed in 33 instead of 3. Well, let's make this 6, and let's change this to 3. And one little trick here, let's say we want to do meters squared. We can use Microsoft's character map application. And for a square, it's this character which uses Unicode 00B2. So if I type in here /U, that's the Unicode, and then 00B2, we'll be able to get that squared unit in there. I'll save the settings, hit OK, and let's go ahead and label lot 1 again. Lot name. Okay, that looks better, except they're masking and it's on top of one another. So how do we fix that? Let's go back. Preferences. Lot naming. And the one option we can use is for the prefix, we can use the mtext paragraph character, which is a /p, and that just puts a space above, because it could be in the prefix. It'll put a space above the area square units calculation displayed text. And let's say this is supposed to be 0 decimal places. And so far that looks good. Let's save our settings, go hit OK, and just again do a preview. What's that going to look like in the lot? And then, yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's, I'm going to do one more check. See if there's anything else we want to change. other than putting them on a different layer, using a different text style, I think this is fine. So let's go ahead and label them all. So we can go to the project level, label parcel names, and they all come in. Let's pan over, and we can see we have the boundary one as well as lot A, our road in there. And great, those look pretty good. All right, I think I mentioned we could try the find and replace application. So we have a case where we are displaying angles to 4 decimal places, but we only want to have them to even minutes. So let's just take a look here at the format. I'll just double click on the label. Label style, and here's the formatting information. So for an azimuth, it's using 4. So what I can do is use the find and replace application. I'll copy this, hit OK, Pemulis Map Maker, find and replace, and I can paste this in here, do a right click, paste. So find all that use an angle to that has that label format. And what I want to do is replace it with one. Again, pick it, right click, paste, and it should be 2. So I change this value to 2, and then let's do a, oops, AutoCAD wants to insert that in there. Thank you, AutoCAD, or BriskCAD. Go back to our find and replace. All right, so it saved all the settings. Again, let's do a find all here. Yep, same ones. And this is set to 2. Now let's do a replace all. And let's zoom in here. So we can see our angles are now, I'll just hit escape twice so that or just regen. That gets rid of the selection set. And I can close find and replace, and we've got them set to even minutes. One other consideration here is, notice how this one shows azimuth of 3350, that does 2, but we have a distance 186, oh sorry, this is the azimuth 18609. Let's change those so that it matches the 609. How do we do that? So we can double click on the label. And azimuth, as well as all angle formats, have an option to flip the value by 180 degrees. So it's currently set to no. Let's make this a yes. Great. Now let's say we want to match the way it looks here. So the other thing I can do, so I want the azimuth on top, I can swap these. That just puts the formats on the opposite side, and you can see in the preview image it does what I'm looking for. And great. So let's just pan over here for a second. And we have some that we want to change. So let's change these. And let's match the format of this label. And notice how they all got switched over. Now the other thing I might want to do is move these so that, let's just take these lot numbers, oops. And I'm going to move those down. So let's place them down here, but I also want to move these up. So here's a little trick to do that. Pick these. I'm going to hold the shift key down. Sorry. Oh, I don't need to hold the shift key down. So just pick them one after another. The shift key comes in a little later. Here, I'll show you. And to slide them all along the label so they're further up, I can hold my Shift key down, hit the center, which is the slider of the label. So I'm holding the Shift key down while I pick all these. It's basically picking that grip, and then I can let go of the Shift and pick, and I can see I'm sliding all of them along it. So it's a very easy way to get the same look on placement of the labels. Great, and we can obviously do the same thing for these labels down here. Change the label format. Match format of this guy. Then we would just have to move them over to get them placed properly. And let's just review that one more time very quickly. So select the labels. I'm not holding the Shift key down, I'm just picking labels. And what I want to do, I'm going to hit the Shift key and pick this guy to unselect him. Thank you. And now I'll hold the Shift key down and I pick the grip that is the move grip of the label. And then I can let go of the Shift and pick one of those grips and then just slide it along and they'll go with it. Okay, and then we've got some even distances here. Those we want to show with no decimal places, so same thing. We can change this from 2 to 0. And then I can pick those labels that should be shown to even distances. To 0 decimal places, use the match format. And those are all fixed. Great. So far, looks pretty good. Let's make a change to these labels. We want to stack them. And let's take a look at our preview window. So what we want is the distance inside here. So let's add a stack label. And then let's paste this guy in. I'll do a Control X and then a Control V and hit OK. And same thing, just pick the labels that you want to use that same format with, and I'll do a match format. And then this one's is just pointing in a different direction, so the angle's different. So we can flip him, flip text to other side. And of course, if we want to remove the 180 degrees calculation, we can do that using that flip 180 option. So that looks pretty good. Just another thing to consider as far as looks of drawings, if you want to space out the characters, we offer tracking. You might be familiar with that with mtext labels. So tracking, here's the value. And as you increase the number, it adds more spaces in between the characters. You can probably see it start to change here. And of course, what I could do is put some more spaces in here. I'll hit OK, and then you can see what it looks like. Okay. Let's do a quick review of the reporting capabilities. So first thing is we'll want to just check what report file we're working with. So if I pick on Report Creator, it says it's the English version. Let's go ahead and change that. Again, I recommend you copy the reports files we supply, and then put them in your company directory and open them and use them from that company directory, not our installation folder. Okay, and let's just take a look here. All right, so this is also in meters. Looks like it's correct. And to get a report, it's a simple matter of on the parcel level, just for a particular parcel, just to right-click and view report. And we provide various report formats. You can just use that drop-down list to change them. There's a legal description that just an example of one. And from the project level, you can do the same thing. So view report of all projects or parcels or a selection of parcels. So I'll just say view all and just change the report format. You can see the data. Now let's make a change to the report just to show you how that works. So again, we're showing angles. So let's take a look at our angle value here. Go to the report creator. For tangents, there are no curves in this drawing, so it doesn't matter. And let's take a look here. So we're shown an azimuth. Here's the azimuth value. And if we make that 2 decimal places, and our distance, let's say that's also supposed to be 2. Got a tangency check, I can turn that off. Course number, that would be this is course number 7 of that parcel, so it's just showing you one example. And of course, you can turn on and off the coordinate values if you want, but this, for our purposes, looks fine. And again, let's just take a look at, zoom to parcel number 1, and take a look at a report of it. And this is our report. And the parcel has been defined in a counterclockwise direction. If I expand the parcel, you can see here's the first course. If I highlight it, you can see it starts down here. You can change that. So let's just highlight this one, see which one this is. So here's the course, go again in a counterclockwise direction. So if I want that to be the starting course, I can do a right click and say make starting course. And then it's the first one in the list. I'll do a R for refresh. These are just ghost images. And then let's take a look at the next one. Down here, and it goes around. You can alternate the course direction. So these were defined in counterclockwise direction. And why were they done that way? Under preferences, parcel definitions, it was set to counterclockwise. One can change that to clockwise, and then when it defines a parcel, they will be defined in a clockwise direction. And again, I can switch that for this particular parcel, alternate course direction. And again, I can make that my starting course. And now it goes, defines the parcel in a clockwise direction. And we offer if you want to alternate all the parcel directions, you can do it from the project level as well. And I'll end with that. I think that's covered many of the features of the Pemulis Map Maker. And thank you very much for watching.